Hello and a warm welcome back to an episode of the Wendirk Cast, your podcast about all things concerning the Metaverse Football League. As always, me Jimbo, him Calvinator, and together we're going to discuss latest MFL updates, transfers, developments, all the grand stuff which has been going on in our favourite NFT game on the Flow blockchain MFL over the last week. One important note, as always, none of what we chat about is financial advice. Do your own scouting or hire a director of Metaverse Football. Calvinate, my man, how are you? Another week? All good?
Yes, well, I think we both are feeling pretty good because just before we started recording, we opened some rare packs we got from the team for our work on the pod and on the streams, and that is really nice that we received those packs. Thanks a lot to the MFL team for that like token, let's say, of appreciation and that we do it, and it's really it means a lot to us. Thanks a lot. So probably you already saw on the little video we posted who we packed, and I think Jimbo, you are really happy with that guy you packed, right?
Yeah, I think out of the two of us, slightly happier. 82 rated centre back. I think it was 89 defending, so I can't really complain about that. But obviously, throughout this week or during last week, we had the AMA, and you were very, very lucky winning a legendary player. So congrats on that, big.
Yeah, no, I mean, in terms of being lucky, I already got my share of luck. So it was really nice, to get a legendary guy. And you probably saw that video. Like at first, I was like super hyped. I was like, oh, there's this Viggo Mortensen. This how it's called? Not Viggo Mortensen is the actor of something like this. This 94 goalie, and I think
it's Hansen, isn't it? I
think Hansen. Yeah, Mortensen is like an actor. Viggo Hansen. And I think, I don't know, B Sellers or someone was hyping the chat like, oh, there's those 90 players still in those in the MFL, like of the basic of the original legendary players, let's say. So I was really hyped. Then it was 85, so I was a little bit like, but then he was 17 and very good stats. So
yeah,
I really cannot complain at all because I was very lucky with that, and in the end, lucky to have this huge talent. So really nice week for us in terms of getting some extra guys for our agencies.
No, exactly.
And the AMA. What about the AMA? You thought, did you hear anything new?
Well, obviously we got a little bit of a sneak peek into, or they sort of revealed that a new sport potentially coming, which is always which is interesting, new dynamic. Seems like it's probably going to be basketball as well by all of the clues they were handing out about nets and things like that. So it looks like it's going to be basketball, which is really exciting. So we'll have to see potentially in the next couple of months what sort of developments come on that sort of piece. But yeah, it's really great to have another AMA from the team, sort of chatting about some of their priorities and some things they're not going to be working on, things that they're working on, all of the different sort of a recap really of the last 4 months as to what they've been brought into MFL as well. So yeah, really, really interesting. Were you in it as well? Did you?
Yeah. No, of course. And then I was there to celebrate the legendary guy, although I opened it later. But
you've also got me to thank for that, because I think I asked for the amount of shuffles, and Lucas, I can't remember, but Lucas asked for shuffles. I think I said something like have a number, and then he shuffled it, and it landed on you. So you're welcome,
thank
Jimbo.
You. Yeah, thank you for those amounts that they sealed the deal. But about the AMA, it was really great to see so many people. Also, a lot of new users were there. I think also for the first time ever, there was also like 2 languages going on in the chat. So it also shows the French community.
I was translating some of them like on the fly as well. Yeah.
So growing a lot. And then the big lucky wheel. So it was really fun to join. And so that was one massive thing. And of course, it was the week of the $1 million tournament, also part of the celebrations.
Yes.
And we made our little extra episode. And I think extra Dirk, and we have a complete team now, right? So who's joining us?
We have a complete team. So within about 45 minutes of that episode being released, we had a full alliance. So we've got OXO Manager from France. We've got a French user. We've then got Hatter or Metaverse Noise from Ireland. Obviously, you, me, and then we've got Josette, who's obviously a French user as well. So we've got a nice European alliance going on here. I was going to say EU, but can't really say that anymore because we've
Yeah,
left.
definitely European still.
Yeah, but definitely European. I know enough geography for that. But yeah, I'm super excited for our alliance. We'll be making a chat for all of the people in our alliance, so we can share tactics and discuss lineups and just sort of get all in that little group activity. So really excited to see what that has in store for everyone, but also us in the alliance as well. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, now we're definitely gonna hype it a little bit and make some content, or definitely talk about it, post about it. So it will be really fun. I'm looking forward to the tournament. A bit of rivalry between those alliances. And I think we talked about it in our like extra episode, right? It's really helps to build kind of smaller groups and more connections in the community already. So
and
I'm
there's
really
been some
looking
great alliances
forward.
as well. I think I saw. I think it was Fantasy Gaffer and whichever group he's in with. I think it's called like the Jackson Five. They've called it or something along those lines with a great little bio and a great photo. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Yeah, and the Keto Alliance is there, right? With some,
the Keto one. Yeah, obviously Bosco's probably somewhere in and amongst that. But just also one final thing before we get into weekly updates. I just want to say massive thank you to everyone's been listening to the podcast recently. We've over the last 7 days had an audience size of 66, which I think is just unreal to think that weekly we're getting sort of a minimum of 66 people coming and listening to our podcast. I think it's just unbelievable. So from myself and Calva, a huge thank you to all of you who have been listening throughout over the last couple of weeks. We really, really appreciate it. Love to provide content for you and hope we're slightly funny and slightly sharing some knowledge. Usually it's just us having a ramble about something we're passionate about. So thank you to all you listeners.
Yes, thanks a lot. And we'll keep making way more episodes, of course. And hopefully we can grow as the project grows, kind of in sync like this.
I think that's what we're seeing here now, yeah.
Yes. Before we dive into the updates, I think we should briefly introduce what we're going to talk about on the spot. So, Jimbo, what are we going to talk about?
So
today?
We're going to be, after our weekly updates, we're going to be chatting all about match ratings and player stats because there's been quite a bit of development around this over the last couple of months. And actually, do we all understand what these pieces of data that we can see all tell us? Do you know how to use them properly? I know I don't. I try to. Calvinator, you probably don't know how to use them properly, but you try to. We're going to give our input into match ratings and player stats, how you can sort of understand them a bit better, and how can you use them to your advantage when it comes to maybe scouting or team selection, those sort of things. So we're basically going to dive into some of the data.
Yes. No, good disclaimer there. I don't think we are like definitely the experts on that, the experts. But yeah, we're going to give it our best shot, maybe how we interpret data, how we use it. And then if people are listening and they're like, hey, I never looked at it that way or I never used it that way. So hopefully that can help you. We're not saying it's like totally true or tested, but it will be fun to just discuss it. And hopefully this will spark some more discussion or help people to look at it different ways. So yeah, we'll talk about that after the update. So let's start with that. The personal journey. We've been playing league matches. We've been playing cup matches. I think league is kind of halfway right now, so it's a nice moment to kind of see where you're standing.
I'd love to swear so hard for mine. I really want to swear so badly. I think Duff quoted me saying that I'm not an ass manager, and he thought the hashtag for one of the episodes was going to be hashtag ass manager. But it could be for this one, to be fair, because this week for the Wyverns has been absolutely abysmal. Partly because their manager has had an absolute stinker, forfeiting a game, my first ever, absolute bombshell. So I got a cancellation request for a player, and I thought, you know what, I could be annoying here, and I could just reject it because I bought him in this transfer window to upgrade my left back position, but I thought, you know what, no, I'm going to accept this and I'm going to let him take him back because out of my kindness of my own heart, completely forgot that he's a starting left back. So it just wiped him out of the squads. And then I was like, where's my notification?
Forfeit.
And I saw forfeit and I went, oh, you twat. So that has led me, and a few other results afterwards, to now being second bottom of my division. But you might as well call it bottom because the guy below me has 0 points. So I'm basically bottom of my division, or my league, sorry. I'm basically bottom of my league with 8 points, I think it is. I recently lost to Big Wilbert's team, albeit Big Will's team probably should be a bronze team. he's got like an 80 rated centre back in there, a bit overpowered for the Iron Division. So I wasn't too bothered about losing 2-1. But I just don't know what I'm doing with the Wyverns. Like,
But are you also now? So you're before you're also always like consistency, stick to the plan.
I think I still stick to the plan, but I just
Okay.
can't see any consistency with that consistent plan.
Okay.
So that's where
Okay.
I really want to change things up. I'm telling myself no. But then give it a second half of the season, and we're probably going to see us play against fatigue side. So that's going to maybe sway my opinion on how this season's going to go. And it might almost, lead me into, false illusion or whatever, misinterpretation about how my team's doing. But they're second in the cup group. I think my second team is like fourth in the league or fifth, and they are second in the cup as well. So realistically, it's probably been a 5 out of 10 week, but the season as a whole for the Wyverns, probably about a -1 so far out of 10 for the whole season.
Yeah,
So,
and especially based on their performances in the past, right? I think all seasons you're like
yeah, well,
champion
we'll
or
get
second or third.
we'll get into the leaderboard stuff later, and according to that, I'm a top 10 club. So, it's a bit in terms of points gained, but yeah, I'm hoping that you're now going to respond and you're going to sort of take us up a bit, and you're going to pull your weight, or pull the podcast's weight when it comes to performances. Have you done a bit better this week?
Well, last week I was already pretty happy. I think I said 8 out of 10, and I would say kind of similar, maybe a little bit less, but still very good. Out of my 7 teams, well, Black Sea is one of my better teams, and they are topping their silver. Well, last season
Arango's
was
having
really...
a phenomenal season as well.
Arango is a top scorer in that division too. Yeah,
Lovely
so he's really
Arango.
helping us out there. So a little bit of a positive news for you that he's doing very well, and Black Sea is doing very well. Although they're also not definitely the best team there. There's some other teams that are better players. Casablanca, a bit less. They're not doing as great after their cup victory. Corsair Cove, their youth team, they are also topping the league, and the Navigators are also like second or third, fourth.
Yeah.
So I have like half my teams are really like in the title race, competing for the title. So that's really nice. And the other, like the new Iron Club had no expectations, so they can do whatever they want. Only Calva Juniors is really disappointing this season. The rest is just on expectation or above. So I have nothing to complain there. Happy with how it's going, and hopefully at least one of those title races can be successful.
Well, maybe we might have a piece of silverware in the podcast this season then, by the sounds of things. I'm not going to jinx it, touch wood. Touch wood. Nothing silly happens or nothing bad happens now, but at least one of us sounds like they're going to get
let's go for that. Let's go for that, yes. Yeah. And in the Wendirk Alliance, of course, that we're also going to
we're going to dominate. The Dirk dominance, when winners...
Maybe Winston is saving all their wins for like 5 wins.
I bloody hope so, Bella. I bloody
in the Alliance, let's say.
Yeah.
All right. To be continued. Let me take care of the dev updates, a couple. So, of course, we already talked about the alliances. So they are live. You can still register for the $1 million tournament. So again, don't worry if you don't have an alliance. You can just register, and then your club will automatically be put into an alliance to fill some gaps. So no worries about that. Just register, because I think the numbers are still pretty low compared to League and Cup. So just sign up. If you're listening, you haven't done it, sign up. The team has released a new way to dive into the MFL ecosystem. Jimbo, you already mentioned that, the leaderboards. So it's really cool to see how clubs are doing compared to each other, managers, like kind of coaches, agents, who has the most players, most contracts, most cups, most teams, like everything you can now quickly see there. So that's really cool. Player progression. So one of the big things the team is working on, still ongoing. Backend integration is underway, so it's really being prepared, maybe for like one of the upcoming seasons, to give it a proper test. Engine also keeps being updated, mainly enhancing realism in set pieces and goalkeeper interactions. Another thing we talked about a couple of times on the pod was the goalkeeper ranking. So the system has also now been fixed to match the Golden Glove ranking. So it's much better than it used to be. And finally, the team is working on optimizing the competitions page to, of course, handle this $1 million tournament. That will be like a large number of participants and matches into a single competition, and hopefully the same infrastructure they can use in the future for maybe some custom tournaments or other tournaments with alliances. So it's also a nice test case for that. Yeah, so I wrote here in the script to maybe discuss the leaderboards a little bit. So who is where? I think we all took a look. So you said Wensam's pretty high as a team?
Yeah, so as a manager, I'm pretty poor because obviously we've only got 2 clubs, and the first club I've had for the whole time. Second club I only had for, technically this is their first season, I think, or second season in, and I don't have that many players. I like to sort of keep it like a nice tight agency. We'll either buying or selling players depending where I don't like to sort of hoard them and send them out. But the club side to it, this is where it gets a bit more interesting. So obviously, if we have to go to filters first, because I won't be on there anywhere else, you go to Iron, and lo and behold, MFL points, the Wyverns are 8th, bringing in a total of 1,109 points. Bearing in mind that points number is after the revenue share has been taken away from it. So if you earn 1,000 points in a season because you won the league, but you have 90% of your revenue being sent to the agents, your club in this leaderboard will only gain an extra 100. So it's worth knowing that, because if you win loads but you've got little points, it's not sort of proper true reflective. But if we then do it by trophies, this is where it gets interesting. Wyverns are technically joint second with 5 other clubs for 3 trophies. There's Perth MFC, who has 4 trophies, but his team for the Iron Division, or that club, like Earl the Goat, has an average rating of a starting 11, probably about 80. So, you can't really compete with that. It's probably going to be a fifth league. I'm just looking at his club now. He's second. He's not even first. He's second in the league. So I'm happy with how the Wyvern are doing. I think my Espartails, I'm not really too sure about they are. In terms of points, they're not even anywhere near that top because they've only been in there for 2 seasons. But I'm happy with the Wyverns. That sort of backs up that maybe I'm not an ass manager. Maybe I'm decent. But this season's not a true reflection of the Wyverns.
Yeah, it's nice because there's so many Iron teams, to see them in the top 10 there. Yeah. I also just noticed that Korsakov is only 3 places behind you. So
yes, you are. Is that in the points ranking? Is it?
Yeah, also in the points ranking. Yeah. So
see, that's
you
are. I don't think that's a really good reflection of like a club, the points, because it's taken into revenue share afterwards. So if you own all the players and you put them as 0, that will boost you up on that leaderboard loads. But if you give them to yourself, if you own the players but you have 5% for all of them, that will take it away from the club and take it away from the leaderboard.
Yeah, so you need to make sure you sign 0% contracts for your own guys, for sure, I would say.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, in that sense, it's not the best.
Yeah, it's harder to do that pre-tax, we'll call it. Pre-tax, it's harder to do it pre-tax. So more look at the trophies. The longer the seasons go on, the trophies will be the one you want to look at.
Also, if the team is listening, I would like to have some kind of numbers on the left side, right? That you can quickly see which rank you are. So like if you would see 10 or 11, but yeah, that's another thing. Okay, what is also interesting is, of course, the managers. And for example, most trophies or most clubs. So of course, most clubs, we all know who is there. Mr. Duff is Mr. Duff, 19 clubs. And also in terms of trophies, he's doing very well. I see Big Wilbert is leading that, 36 trophies, so with 14 clubs.
Yeah.
Also very impressive, and of course most points earned is more the really big guns, Dio and Ronin. They're really leading. Dio is number 1, leading the charts there. What I was quite happy with is with agents. You can also see the active contracts, and I'm there on the 6th place. So that was my happy moment, to see that I'm like number 6 with most active contracts. So I loaned out, well, of course I have 7 teams, but also to loads of other teams who've signed like commons and uncommons from me. So that's fun to see. But yeah, in general, the leaderboards are really fun to play around to see who's where, how are your clubs doing, who has most players, most agents. Maybe we could add a couple more data, like some other metrics, or maybe like divide the amount of clubs and points, or you can come up with some more calculations to formula.
Yeah, no, exactly. If you could if you could export it or something along those lines. For example, like the club owners, we've got, even though Big Wilbert's won the most trophies, he's won the most club trophies as well. So obviously the global one takes into account if you've like golden boot, if you're the golden glove sort of thing. Whereas the club owners, it's him and Big Wilb and Dio rocking at the top with 15 each, which is really impressive. So I'm just trying to have a look at it now. Dio Dio owns 9 clubs and he's won 15 trophies, so that's a pretty good ratio. So we want to look at some of the ratios perhaps to see who's like an overperforming, underachieving. But yeah, really nice to have these little leaderboards. It's something that's been requested for a long time, and hopefully they can be buffed out and expanded and then get really, really cool.
Yeah, but the fact that they are already here is really, really cool. Just to say that, and of course there's things to grow there, but it's really cool to see it. So yeah, really fun. Okay, last week we talked a lot about the Diamond League, of course, and we were kind of analyzing that and how the teams, their formations and the players and transfers and all of that. And we had quite there's I think 5 matches have been played until, let's say, when the first round. Can you say that in English? Let's say the first round of 7 matches, or how would you say it? The first half of the competition?
Just say what the first game.
No, I mean 7 matches in is like half the season, right?
Yeah, you just say halfway point of the season.
Yeah, the halfway point. So we saw like half point of the season. Dio won all of those matches, and then he had like 7 wins. And I think then MFL posted on Twitter like, look how Dio is doing.
You could just see it.
And a little jinx there, and then he lost one and he drew one, but still he is on top. 22 points, and the gap with Meta is 5 points, so it's still quite a significant gap. Meta Mercenaries 70 points, BFC Barcelona 15, and Joe B, I think he's happy with his 4th place.
Yeah, he told us on his expectations.
Yeah, that was the goal, right, for him, top half. He knows
top half.
Those 3 teams are kind of too good, and he's like best of the rest. So I think he's quite happy with that. And I guess the most unhappy manager must be, I think, Eric with Londinium.
It's got to be Eric, considering last season's performance. Exactly. It's got to be Eric. It's a complete reversal compared to performances last year. But yeah, Dio's team, will they take the 10th game with a win? Will they make it a little bit of a slip up? Is it going to be a little bit of a trend, not winning? But fair play to him for winning 7 in a row. It's just frustrating when you then don't keep doing that. So, unlike Bayer Leverkusen, who won the league today. So,
yes,
5-0 win.
Yeah, he should really, I think, just stick to what he did before. And he can have a couple of, I don't know if you could say like dice rolls, right? Like he can have kind of a bad RNG sometimes and not do so well. But based on winning 7 in a row, that shows that you really have a good formation, good tactic. Seems to work. Just stick to the plan. And I think I predicted Dio would win. I still back that prediction. Yeah. Looks like he could and will.
Yeah, I think it looks like it probably all come down to that second matchup between Dio and Meta. Yeah, because Dio won the first one. And if then, if Meta wins it this time, that gap's within, what was originally currently as 5, then goes to 2. And then it's anyone's game then. It's anyone's game. So we'll see.
Yeah, and it's only 5 more games. So this also, says it's like very tight. If you have 5 more games, there's 1 more win by Meta. They beat Missione Milano, then the gap is only 2, 4 more games. So things can still change a lot. It really depends on that matchup.
Yeah.
Yes. So really, I don't know exactly when all the matches will be played, but next week we might know already who could be champion technically.
Yeah.
So interesting to keep
see how it develops. Yeah.
An eye out on that to see how it develops indeed. Okay, Marketplace. I have a nice list for you again with some new managers.
Yeah.
Some who even or have no name or kind of change the name seemingly. For example, one new manager is OG United, but also Tingus Pingus. You saw him probably in the chat. So he was a bit
I
active.
love that name, Tingus Pingus.
Tingus Pingus. But then I think he
Tingu.
changed to OG United, or it links to the same profile. It's a bit complicated. Anyway, he joined, and I think he was also already active in the chat a little bit. So that's great to see. Also have Unai Leonelson, a wallet 0x88. I don't know, no name, no Discord, but yeah, those people also join. Of course, you don't have to join the Discord or put a name there. Cyan Newsby John, I think he's like a Fujin player, or I saw on Twitter he's also playing loads of other NFT games, Web3 games.
He was the guy who I gave, or I'm going to give my starter pack referral contents to, because I think he used it and then bought a club or so. He bought a club and he's got Brazil. And I said on Twitter, whoever's my third referral, I'll give them the pack contents as
Nice.
an added incentive, and he got it. So I'm just sort of making sure and just getting him familiar with Evaluate. Then I'll ping over. I think it's they're not amazing. It's like 59 and a 46. So the 59 could be useful, but one of them's 16, I think, or 17.
But what is the uncommon then?
No, they're both because they're starter. They're both
starter pack. Oh,
starter.
okay. It's not
The default is both common.
basic pack.
There's a 46 rate, but it's a shame he's 46 rate because he's 16. So it could be quite. Could be quite nice. You know, it's like an academy or something like that. But yeah, he seems to be in a few other different projects. So welcome aboard.
Yeah, that's nice to have him, and I think he also creates some content, and that's great to have him on board. Another funny name, Colt Palmer. So he also joined. Colt Palmer is also here. Another unknown anonymous wallet, starting with X37. OTFC, Soft Quintino, Jeremy 25, Jovi, Gradash Walk, London 32, Adele, and Footweb Free Connect. I think he was already there last week, but I forgot him. But anyway, welcome. So again, nice group. Not the huge thing, but it's also because the season has already started. So probably when the build up to next season, we'll see a big intake. But it seems to be a nice, consistent stream of new people joining. So again, more than 10 people. Active managers, Crazy Cult has been pretty active, also in the chat, and he bought a new gold club in Lyon. So that's really nice. That there's, I think gold is almost getting complete. So that's really great to see. And also got a lot of players. Coach Dave got a couple of rares. Make Fink, who's been buying loads of players, got another Iron and has again been buying loads of players. Leish, but a lot of people. Eclipse, Dallas Stone, plus players. And a big stone transfer, Liverpool Stone, by Armia for 200 USD. Yeah, so that's a big splash. Yeah, Liverpool is a big name, of course.
Well, they may not win the title this year. We'll see. All those big teams bottling it. Yeah, true.
Yes. Okay. Anyway, that is real football. Back to metaverse football. Yeah, trades, there was not really massive things like legendaries. No. We saw, well, what I liked is that Dio had a trade, a rare and 2 uncommons with Larui or Gusto at Gusto21 for another rare goalie. But it's nice that also new names are in the trade bot. They find Evaluate, they start trading people. So that's great to see. All right. The floor is all yours.
Splash of the week. Fortunately, we've got a really nice name this week. Thank you, Guitarero, for purchasing a player whose name I can pronounce. Because Guitarero is this week's Splash of the Week, purchasing Ken Sloan from Australia. I probably should have done an Aussie accent there, but I forgot to. For $480. So pretty big purchase, 86 rated, CDM centre mid, with some really nice stats. Passing of 93, a little bit on the slow side. Doesn't have that great shooting, but he's a defensive midfielder by trade, by primary. So he bought that from him, Brandon. Guitarero purchased that for $480, mate. $480. Bang and purchase. Ken Sloan, age 21, CDM centre mid. So that's this week.
Splash of the week.
Great Aussie accent there.
Apologies.
We'll let Jamie.
It wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad.
Okay, I'll ask Jamie, please give a rating from 1 to 10 in the chat for this accent. I'm interested for that. Okay. Oh no, by the way, first I want to say maybe we should count who's Splash of the Week, because Guitarero is probably topping that ranking. I think he's been
we could probably
3,
go
4,
back
5.
and see amount of splashes in a year.
The splash
52,
ranking.
52 splashes. Who's going to be our leaderboard?
Splash leaderboard. I think Guitarero is probably up there somewhere. Definitely top 3 with the splashes he has been doing.
Splash.
Okay, how Dirk? I see a couple of stats that are maybe, what would you say? Promising, not promising. Rating wise, still decent.
Rating wise, he's 7.8, and I can't remember exactly what we said his rating was last. Maybe it was 7.7. Maybe I don't know what his rating was last week. But 7.8 average rating, still pretty impressive to maintain over a season so far. He did drop an 8.4, 2 8.4s actually. Within the last week, which is pretty nice. Having the last week, he's only grabbed 3 assists, which I guess over how many games is it? 6 games. 6 games. That's not too bad. Over 6 games, that's not so bad. So, he seems to be doing well. He got a 6.4 in his last game when he. Oh no, they haven't. They've already played each other twice now. That's the
Oh, that was the draw.
Milano. That was the draw. So they've not got to play each other again. I stand corrected. I hadn't done my proper research. Mercenaries Milano is 1-1, so that's a good result for Dio. So now it's all up to Meta to catch. No trying to,
This definitely increases the chances of Dio. Yeah, that he played Meta already second time. So we should update that. Sorry, guys, rectification. The match already happened. Correction.
But at least we are honest and we admit where we went wrong.
Yeah. We're not going back to re-record stuff.
No, none of that. We'll people back then 10 minutes ago were going, he's got it. We can. He's doing all right. He's averaging at the moment in the Diamond League 7.4. And in the Cups, the pre-season, he was averaging 8.2, and the Titans Cup, 8.4. And we have always said that he's a Cup player. So statistically, at the moment, these match ratings are backing us up and our claims out. They're backing our claims.
Yes.
So let's see what Dirk does within the next week, this time next week, where, like you said, we might have a winner of the Diamond League. It could be going to the end, yeah. So let's see.
Curious to see how that goes, yeah. Well, actually, this is a nice transition because we just looked at his data and we talked about his match ratings. And of course, that is the main topic for this episode 33. We're going to talk about match ratings and player stats. So first, we'll just explain a little bit better, what are match ratings and which stats can you all check out if you go to the player pages or to club pages, etc. So the individual stats, match ratings, and then 2 different topics. So how could you use those ratings, those stats, the player data to improve your tactics and also to improve your scouting and, let's say, who are you buying? So who are you signing, who are you buying based on those stats or based on those ratings? So that's what we're going to talk about. So Jimbo, what is new in season 0.5 that we have not seen before in 0.4?
So the most obvious one is just the match ratings themselves. So that's the out of 10, the match rating that your players get live during the game. So it's not something that gets shown afterwards, a bit like all the stats you get during the game. It's shown live, and it's a combination of all the sort of individual stats we're going to go over. I think there could be some factors to it which we're not aware to yet, but I'm assuming that most of them have something to do with the individual stats that we're going to talk about. But the match ratings are great. So we'll see it's between, I guess, could you go down to 0? Let's just say 1 and 10. On average, It's about between 5 and 10 is usually the the usual range. If you get anything below 5, usually the goalkeeper is conceded about 7. We have the match ratings. Then we have the individual player stats. So if you go to a player's profile, his page, you can see the career, which you can view sort of how a player's been doing for their whole career. So you can see the seasons all totaled up together, really nice. Then you always have the latest matches below them. But for each one of those, you can sort of see for the season how well is he doing for his attack, defense, passing, goalkeeper, and that's really, really great. So you get to see the matches played, and I'm now going to go through each different categories and sort of explain what is within each of those categories when it comes to parts of the player stats. So the summary one's really easy. That was just your minutes, how many games you played, your average rating, how many goals you scored, how many assists you got, and your reds and your yellows. Pretty nice, easy one. But then that was what we used to have for a couple of seasons. Now we've got all these extra ones we can add to it. So we've got attack, which we have expected goals, shots blocked, successful dribbles, and fouls suffered. So it's kind of interesting. Shots blocked will be your own shots being blocked, correct? Which is kind of it's an interesting, I'm not going to say wording, but where it's been placed within there. You don't really track shots blocked as an attacking stat, I don't think. It's more of like a defensive stat. Rather than you judge a striker by how many goals he scored, not by how many shots he's had blocked. But, move on to defense. Defensive duels won, a big one. Shot interceptions, clearances, fouls committed, dribbled past, and then own goals. Because now own goals have been integrated into the engine. So if you get any Harry Maguires, they'll be shown there. And then passing, assists, obviously, chances created, crosses and passes. And then finally for the goalkeepers, we've got saves and goals conceded. Could be quite nice to have clean sheets in there, perhaps would be a nice stat, because that would really help with sort of that. I guess you could almost say the goalkeeper trophy at the end of the season. Usually it would go to the goalkeeper with the most clean sheets. So hopefully that.
But now it's the rating, right? They changed it.
Yeah, now it's the rating, and you have to play at least 70% of the games. So maybe in the future, it's a combination of rating and clean sheets.
But clean sheets
would be a nice one.
Would be nice.
But yeah.
So before we maybe dive a bit deeper into those stats and how you could use it for maybe tactics or scouting, just like on a daily basis when you check your matches or when you just play around with like in your agency, click on some players. What are you mostly looking at?
I will admit that the players I look at the most for me is sort of like my midfielders and my strikers. If they've played well, or I look at sort of their match rating. Then if they've played well, say if my striker scored a couple of goals, I like to go have a look at how many, at what was his expected goals, which obviously is XG at the moment. It's a little bit of an awkward one because we're not too sure how accurate it's been calculated, sort of thing. But then shots to shots on target, that sort of ratio, you can do a calculation there. And the successful dribbles and fouls suffered can sort of be a big one for forwards as well. But I also do the same thing if he's played badly, because I had a striker for Wyverns, Honorio, depends how you want to pronounce it. I'm not Brazilian. And he had an awful game. And I knew he had an awful game even before seeing his rating. He had a rating of 5.9. And I knew he'd bad because he had missed so many chances. But then I went into the stats, had a look at it, and he had like an XG of something like 0.86 and missed like 3 big chances. And I sort of used that to confirm, like, yeah, you had an absolute stinker. And then for my midfielders, I use it for just like the passing stats and chances created, really.
Yeah, so sometimes just when the rating is low, you're like, well, maybe you should investigate a little bit.
Yeah, I can talk more about that later, but that's just like
this is more.
I just casually look at it. I go, right, here's a player rating. What contributed to that, and I have a look at it on a very high level. But for the most part, I don't really dive into it too much unless I really want to. It's just have a look at the match ratings. Really, is what I sort of look at.
Yeah, I think most people they see their match results, quickly check it to rating. And most things, they kind of make sense, right? So they're like, okay, the striker scored 3 goals, so he has a 9. Or defender had a red card, so he has a 6. There's always some kind of reason. So I think the most interesting is when, we're already transitioning a bit into the tactics, like when there's some inconsistency or when it seems weird. Like, why does this guy have such a high rating without any significant, maybe obvious contribution or some obvious mistakes. Or I think that's so. Maybe we can already start talking about tactics in
let's
that
talk about
sense.
it now.
Like,
Then those are the sort of players that you want to look out for. It's those players who don't have decisive actions such as a goal or an assist, but rack up high ratings. For anyone who plays So Rare, these are your players who rack up your AA score, who get really high AA score but don't actually score a goal or assist. So their score goes crazy high. They can really great. Basically, it means they can get high ratings without actually on the score sheet contributing much. So they're like the person who's assisting the assister sort of thing, or just being influential in the game without having that direct impact from like a goal or assist. So they're the sort of players that I'll kind of look out for, because if they're consistently rating well, it means that, you know, usually the team will be playing pretty well. An obvious one from an IRL standpoint is Gabriel Sara for Norwich. He's been amazing for us this year, and he's got like an average rating of like 7.9 or something crazy. He scores quite a lot on assists, but if he's not playing well, his match rating is low, the rest of the team just doesn't function. He's like such a pivotal member of the team. But you use it for your tactics. How do you use player match ratings for your tactics and stuff?
Yeah, kind of what I said, like when with inconsistencies or when it makes no sense and you want to kind of understand a bit better some players, or who would you prefer on which position based on just like their stats, their individual, like in this, or the attributes, let's say, not their stats. Maybe it might be confusing when you listen about attributes, but you have to pick like some, for example, midfielders. I think what you said, right? Some with strikers is pretty obvious with like scoring goals. And with attacking midfielders with also goals and assists, but where you with defensive midfielders or center midfielders, I think that's a bit harder to judge. Like, who should I pick and why, and how are they doing? So I think that's where you start looking a bit more about successful passes or chances created, or crosses, like which midfielders are doing the work there, let's say, and could you maybe replace it and try out another guy, and who's creating more chances. So diving a bit there into deeper.
One of the things I've been able to do slightly is it may not be the best example, because I have in the Wyverns, I have a 78 rated CDM, which that rating is far too high for Iron, and I know that, but I packed him and I just thought I'm just going to chuck him in the Wyverns. When progression happens, he will be left, he will go out, but I just want to keep him in there because he's got like 85 passing, so I want to just keep him in there so I can almost play around with that passing piece. And what I've been able to basically dive down into is I know which formations he doesn't play well in now, or this, for me anyway. I usually play him in a 4-2-2 as a CDM, or a 4-3-3 defensive as a CDM. And I know now that if I play against usually a 3 back or a 4 midfield, he just doesn't perform that well. So that's the way I've been able to sort of dive down into it, and I can look at my formations and go, right, these couple of players play really well against these formations. So that almost helps you with your tactics, not just from your own point of view, but looking ahead into future games and saying, this guy always plays a 3 at the back, so he's going to have 5 midfield. One of my best players may not perform that well, so how can I try and make him play better? That's what I've been able to sort of decipher a bit. And what I would like to do further down the line with that is spreadsheets. If anyone wants to make this idea, feel free to, calling out to Ali or other amazing people like that, is being able to essentially extract the stats, which you could do manually through a spreadsheet. You've got your formation and your strongest lineup, use it in different formations, and then over like 10 games, how many chances were created over your whole team across all those 10 games. So maybe you can actually get a better understanding, because at the moment we just look at goals and the result, but actually, even if you might not be winning, that's the whole XG piece. Even if you may not be winning, you still may be creating way more chances than your opponent. So in theory, just give it time, the consistency piece, and you will start scoring and playing better. So that's what I want to do. I want to be able to extract all the stats from my players from one game, really build up that database to really push that data side and justify formations and tactic changes based on a massive data set. So that's how I want to in the future. Maybe not this season, because I've probably not got the time and we're only halfway through. I don't want to go backtrack data. But that's how I want to look at match ratings and stats. Like really be a proper nerd about it.
Yeah, that's a great plan. I think definitely XG is, well, they said it's sometimes not the most reliable, right? But maybe you can see some trends. And yeah, are you scoring more or less than your XG? In real football, there's also a thing, like they have all stats for this, right? Some teams are scoring more than their XG, some are underperforming, scoring lower than their XG. If you can play around with that, you test some formations. When am I scoring more or less than my XG?
Yeah.
Which team instructions, right? Should you be more, maybe shooting quicker, more dribbles? Maybe that helps converting more chances or not. So I think XG is a great stat. Also with strikers, how strikers are performing. Are they scoring more or less than their XG?
Yeah.
And can you make them perform better by changing team instructions? I think those are definitely some fun things to test, and that can help you improve your tactics.
Yeah, I think if you're going to sort of test those things out as well, with regards to team instructions, maybe trying from a baseline, keep them all unbalanced or like in the middle of the sliders, just so you know there's, in theory, nothing swaying the outcome of those stats. So if you're looking at XG, for example, if you keep ramping up more long shots, chances are you're probably not going to get a high XG because you're taking long shots which don't have a big XG to them. So if you're testing that out, try and keep everything on balanced, do that consistently, bulk up that to try and, that database of all those stats recording, whatever, and then play around with the sliders. That's what I do anyway. Not tactical advice, but that's what the guy whose main team, who's currently sitting second bottom of the league, does. But on the other side of it, he also is joint second in most trophies in the iron. So
yeah,
take my advice.
no, and that's good. Yeah, don't test too much at the same time, of course, with this. Like, if you're gathering data, like just focus on one or two things, and then you keep changing that, and then see what happens. And
there's also there's also the point that you can do all this testing, and then next season you need to do it all again because the whole engine's changed. There's also that element to it. So I know, for example, now that I don't play any test games unless someone challenges me. I just don't, partly because I've not got the time to, and I can only probably play about 5. I'm not really gain much information from that. But then probably the engine changes next season when some of the stuff Quinton's working with, the realism of set pieces, that may change. That might change the XG. That might change the chances created. That might change that whole dynamic now. So don't get too bogged down in it. Just do what you're comfortable with. But don't be angry if you can't do more than what you're able to when it comes to stats, because some people will have 2 trillion spreadsheets and they can do that. I can't personally do that.
No, you also need the time for that.
I only have one.
It's more like hypothetically, like what could you test? How could you use match ratings? How could you use data? Yeah, like also if you change those formations, what happens to the match rating? Because of course the match rating is based on the combination of those stats.
I think match ratings gets really impressive when we've had multiple seasons to like compare them over, or multiple games to compare the match ratings over. Because at the moment, I'll talk about it in a bit later with the scouting piece, but we need to bank up match rating stats to have that.
Of course, a bigger sample. Yeah,
bigger sample.
Yeah, another thing, what I'm curious about to test with this, with like the data and the match rating, is like for each position, what do you really want? There's like a little debate. Like, for example, having center backs, like, do you want them to have higher passing, or is that not really needed? Or do you want them to have higher pace? Does it really pay off to have center backs with high pace? Like the guy you spec and the legendary guy I pack, they both have high pace, and people say, "Oh, it's really nice, it's high pace, right?" Like maybe you can keep up with a striker, or like does that really matter? Like maybe you could test that out. Or do center midfielders really need to have high defense, or do you need at least a couple of guys with high defense there? Or how much does passing really matter? Like having super high passing guys, right?
So like I try and get high passing for a lot of my fullbacks, my defenders, because I really like playing. I want to really play the controlled style in the team instructions, but I don't feel I get much luck with it. Even though I feel like I have a midfield and defense, but especially midfield that has a high passing. I think the combined 3 of my centre mids is about, on average, about 83, 84. Yeah, I'm not saying good passing equals good possession, but I still feel like I'm passing it around and my opponent just goes, whoop, and just lobs it over the top, and I get caught on the counter with a deep line as well, and it proper rattles me. But
yeah, exactly.
It's a good point. It's a good point you raised there. Yeah.
So maybe you could test that out a bit, and then maybe if you have a higher line, maybe you need that pace with your center backs, right? That makes sense. So is that really true or not? Okay, so yeah, again, we're not experts. We're speculating a little bit. Maybe you guys at home should do the testing. We're also not the best with data analysis and everything, but I think those are some approaches you can use. So based on XG, maybe change around some team instructions, informations, and if you want to figure out a bit more, what do you need for each position, play around with that to optimize tactics.
And let us know your thoughts as well, because I often see in many, like in the MFL Discord, the Borders Discord, like people talking about stats and team instructions and how it's all unique and personal to how you want to play MFL, which is the best thing. I guess maybe there might be some sort of meta behind it, but I don't think there really is to an extent. Not like there was in the first season, but there's no wrong opinion when it comes to some of this at the moment. There might be, don't play a high line with a defender who's got 40 pace, because if you come up against a 90 pace striker, he's probably going to get smacked in terms of balls over the top and things like that. But I'd say do what you want to do, but also let us know what your thoughts are on all this sort of team instructions, and have you been using player stats as well and match ratings? We'll be keen to hear your our listeners. Have we got a couple of Peps and Xabi Alonso's within the community, or have we got a couple of Sean Dychers? I want to know what listeners, what manager.
Laptop managers, right? But we are all laptop managers. That's how they call the new generation of managers there. Okay, so this is the tactics part. So let's talk also about scouting and transfers, and maybe do you look at data when you buy guys or when you sign certain players? So what about you? Have you already done that in the past? Like, have you bought guys based on stats or ratings?
I think already? I did a lot of my transfers before the preseason tournament, and before the preseason tournament, none of those stats were available. So it was very hard to use player ratings or match ratings and player stats to aid your decision, or to help you, or to push you away from a player, push or pull for a player. Let's put it like that. But I could imagine next transfer window, I'll be looking at how did a player do within my agency. Should I be increasing his minimum contract? His minimum rev share, because I know he's going to perform well in the Iron League. I just know because he just plays well week in, week out. Or like I said, from the scouting point of view, do I want looking at players who have played well this season? For example, I bought someone and the player and the manager won't release him from his contract, which slightly annoyed me. But hey-oh, that is the game. He's allowed to do that. I'm quite cautiously looking at how he's doing over this season, because I'm like, well, I bought this player in, essentially sent him back on loan to his parent club, and if he's not going to start performing, or back on loan to the club, not his parent club, you know what I mean though. I bought him and I'm sending back on loan to his older club beforehand, and I want to see how he's getting on, because if he's getting on well, I might promote him. I might keep him. So I think it'll be the match ratings that I'll be using for scouting. I think that's what I'll be using, because that's a good indication of the whole piece when it comes to
Although it might also be a bit, how do you say that? Like if you have a team, for example, this Perf team, the infamous Perf MFC, with their like full rare gold team lineup in Iron. Yeah. Of course, they keep winning all matches, so of course all match ratings will be pretty high for all their players the whole season. Yeah. Right. So if you also got to check out in the team, how did this team do, and did they lose a lot of matches, and then how did the guy relatively do, like compared to how the team did. Yeah. So if he still has pretty good ratings and the team was like last, that might be a good indication that he's a pretty good player.
Yeah.
right? Or if you have a striker in a
Diamond
team.
in the rubbish sort of thing, yeah.
Yeah, so if a striker was part of a team that kept losing and he still managed to win maybe the golden boot and score way more than the XG, then you're like, oh, that's a very nice striker. Maybe I should sign that guy.
Yeah.
Buy
No, I
that
think
guy.
that is a good way of looking at it as well. Yeah. And but thing to bear in mind, sorry, that is something just to bear in mind, that look at the squads. And that's what I do, slightly off topic, but that's what I do when I get contracts in for players. I'll go look at the squad. Where did they finish last season? How's the squad looking now? Is it changed? I probably fooled a few managers with the Wyverns because they won a cup last year. Gone, oh yeah, Wyverns doing well, second bottom. So you know,
Oh, yeah.
this season's a write-off basically. So any ratch ratings from agents who looking at their players at the Wyverns will be better next year. Don't look at the match ratings this season. But
Good to know.
I think you just need to use the player stats to sort of support some of your decisions. If you want a playmaker, go look at the chances created across the season. Is it more than what you've currently got? Is it less than what you've currently got? That sort of thing. Compare and contrast with what you've currently got or what you want to get. Maybe someone can make a fantastic website where you can put in the player ID or the name and it brings up all of the stats and you can compare and contrast. Maybe the GOAT of Ali might do something.
You're channeling a certain person to
yes,
to get active.
yes, or teach me how I can do that.
Well, what I would also love is like player leaderboards or something, like all-time goal scorer or like your ratio, right? Your goals per match or something.
The player ratings could be really nice in leaderboard because potentially then for each league, this is not too complicated, I don't think. But then you could almost do like your team of the season for each league. Who is your best rated goalkeeper? Who is your best rated? Just saying a 4-4-2 or 4-3-3, what they commonly are. Who was your team of the season across your league? And your player goes in there, and you have those sort of accolades, or if a manager wants to come in for him, and you go, well, he was in my Iron League's team of the season this year, so a bit like FIFA in the team of the season. You're offering 5%. I want 7.5 at least because I know he's a good player. That sort of thing. It's gonna make transfer negotiations a bit juicy, I think.
Will be interesting, yeah. And definitely when player development comes in, like is he actually gonna play and gain some XP?
Yeah,
it will be even another layer to look at. But yeah, I think in general, looking at stats, of course, when you buy new guys, you have loads of things to look at. For example, price, I think, is your starting point. Maybe you're looking for a new striker. You look at, okay, I want a rare striker in this price range. There's 3 candidates who can afford. They're all about the same overall. Then just compare them based on the stats, based on teams. Who is maybe overperforming in terms of XG? Who scores more than the XG? Which team do they play for? So I think this will really help. I also curious if people already do this or like when they buy guys.
We want to hear our listeners' input and their thoughts on all of this, because I think some of the stuff I was mentioning about earlier is really interesting. How I know some of my CDM doesn't play well against certain formations. That's what I think the level of detail that if you're able to go into is really beneficial. I probably will do that with my strikers now because I'm in a bit of a Leicester City problem right now where I've got 3 strikers and I don't really know which one I want to play each game. So I need to give them a bit of a run. I say give a bit of a run, a bit later now in the season.
You can use it as a test season now, a full test season.
Exactly. I'm not writing off yet. We can still do something. Maybe the cups, but maybe the leagues. You're right. Maybe the leagues have a bit of play around now. And I go right when this striker's alone forward. Does he play well against 3 at the back? Yes or no? Or when he's partnered up against someone and they play 3 at the back, does he play well there? So sort of just understanding which formation your players play well in. And maybe you want to go a bit deeper, which formations your players play well against or worse against. And if you start to gain that knowledge, that's really powerful. That's really powerful then.
Yeah. Also brings us a bit back to the discussion we had last week of some diamond managers. Some are like same formation, maybe change up instructions. Some say maybe similar instructions, change up formations. It's kind of 2 schools of thought in there. But overall, the conclusion I think is if with so much more data now, and I think there will be even more layers of data. And there's really, I think, if you're good with that, and if you do loads of testing, I think there's some really kind of golden nuggets, or how do you call it? You can find
golden nuggets.
there,
right? Find
golden
a golden
nuggets,
nugget,
right?
little golden ticket in there, little Willy Wonka chocolate factory, something.
Exactly, you can really, I think, spot those things that give you an edge. That can you maybe you put the right guys in the right place. You know what you kind of need for each position. You kind of know what you need for each formation. And you could really optimize and maybe perform that 10% better. Yeah, maybe do that 10% better that scores you those points that gives you that cup or league. So
you got to find your edge. Yeah,
exactly. Is it the hashtag there?
I was going to say hashtag find your edge, but in many ways that can mean many different things. So I'm not sure. We'll go with hashtag find my edge.
There's also a lot of puns with sheets and Excel sheets.
Yes.
In the sheets, between the sheets, something like that can be.
Yeah, let's go with that. I like that one. Let's hashtag between the sheets.
Between the sheets.
Hashtag
Excel
between the sheets. Yeah, hashtag between the sheets. And you are more than welcome to put something before or after that hashtag as well, as some of the sayings are. But yeah, I think we've had a really good discussion today. Obviously not tactical advice, but it's our tactical thoughts. It's what our thoughts are. It's not advice, it's thoughts.
Exactly. I think maybe we gave people some ideas or things they can explore, and that's also nice.
Yeah. Maybe one of us feels that we've got an actual edge against the market, we'll call it, against the rest of the pyramid. Then maybe we'll have to do maybe have to see if the IMFF do like a course accreditation for certified tactical genius, and then you can actually provide tactical advice in that sense. Then, and maybe you can be a consultant, and you can provide your expertise for poor performing clubs to help rebuild them, or AK a sporting director.
Could be a new business plan. Yes.
Yeah. We'll call it there, folks. Hashtag between the sheets. Thank you all so very much for listening. We've been massive support over the last couple of weeks. It's been unbelievable. If you're not following, you've not left a review, you've not left a 5-star, please go and do that. Go follow our socials as well in the link tree, all that great stuff there on X. We'll also, hopefully, the next couple of weeks, be sort of integrating some short form media reels and clips. Probably should announce that at the beginning, but there we go. But yeah, hashtag between the sheets. And we'll see you this time next week for an episode of the Wendirk Cast. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.